So, welcome everybody to this afternoon's workshop. We're going to be handing over to you today to do a little bit of work too, rather than John and I just updating you about where we're at. But we are going to start with a little bit of updating around what we've got going on first. So, I'm going to hand over to John in a moment, who's going to just talk about what to expect when, just in case any of you have either forgotten, not heard yet, or are new to the project as well. So. I'm going to hand over to John to do that in a moment. And then after that, we're going to just have a look today about thinking about how you can get your foundations right. So thinking about some things that you might want to just have a think about and action in front of the film landing in your inbox. So having a think about the assets that you've got at the moment and how you might want to check them over. And then crucially today for the most of the session really, as I say, is about yourselves and your ideas, your experiences, your knowledge about where you think you can use this product. So we're going to go into breakout rooms for about 20 minutes today. I'll talk about that when we get to it. We are then going to have very focused feedback from each group and what you've discussed. There's been quite a lot of groups going on here as well. Then we're going to pan back over to John, who's just going to talk about some of the ways that you might want to get the message out there and any updates, etc., to your website. And if you need any help with that as well. And then we'll open the floor and just see if there's any last minute questions or anything that people want to know there as well. So we'll have the chat open. We might not answer the questions immediately in the chat if one of us is talking, but between us we'll tag team that. And the great thing, of course, with Teams is that the chat stays there so that we can actually come to that if we do miss anything at the time as well. So for those of you who don't know me as well, my name's Rachel Brown, and I've been working on film projects since 2015, and so I've worked with these film directors a number of times. When I left Coventry City Council a few years ago, the project in its entirety was handed over to Cam Digital, who very kindly agreed to not lose the momentum that we've built up on this style of collaborative working. And then I've been working alongside John, who's been an absolute star. Took over a lot of the reins this year in it, just supporting with getting this project keeping going, keeping moving forward, and it's great to have so many of you involved. So I'll hand over to John now, who will do a little bit about when you can expect things. Where I'll just move the screen on, John.
Okay, thanks for that, Rachel. So common questions that you're probably thinking about. The film should be with you by 10th of October. Me and Rachel have seen like the first rough edit of it. It's really, really good. I'm not just saying that. When you watch it, make sure you've got a box of hankies with you because it will provoke an emotional reaction, which is exactly the intention of the film. Remember, it's embargoed until the 17th of October. So although you might want to show it off and all the rest of it, make sure you just keep it internal. Make sure nobody puts it out on anything that can be shared for the general public to view. We should have the press release out by the 10th as well. We were hoping to get that earlier. Unfortunately, Brian at Sandwell, who's writing the press release, is off sick at the moment. So we've got a sort of substitute approach for that. So hopefully Brian will be back in the saddle before too long, but we just want to make sure we get the release to you as soon as we can. The stills from footage, we'll send out the download link for this later this week. We've just had them through, but we need to make sure they're all sorted and everything. So that is basically a still from every scene in the film, because obviously the footage you got, the stills from the filming you got sent, not every single frame was captured in that in the right sort of way because of the angles and tightness of the room and everything like that. But yeah, look out for that link. We've already sent out the links for the images from the filming. If you've been off sick or on holiday or something like that and the links we've sent expired, I'm going to put fresh ones in the chat for you. So I'll do that in a second. Next slide, please. So when you do get links for anything, download stuff immediately, even if you think, oh well, my colleague's got that, they'll do it. We've had a few cases where people have left it to each other. So as soon as you get your link for the images or the films, download them immediately. The WeTransfer links expire in 3 days now, whereas it used to be a week. And what happened last year with any of us is around, I think about 30 councils out of the 80 failed to download the films on time, which meant that I had to spend an awful long time digging out my trusty external hard drive, which I've taken a photo of there, which I back everything up onto because my laptop obviously can't hold 80 full film files because it's the hard drive's not big enough. So every time I get an email from someone saying, "Oh, the link's expired, but we haven't got the film and we need to do this," I would have to dig out my hard drive, fire it up, transfer it over, and I lost a lot of time doing that. I reckon probably 3 or 4 days. Obviously, my time has to be covered when I'm doing that, so that takes money out of the project pot. So this year, if you don't download your links on time, and you then think, "Oh, actually, I need to have the link resent," I'll have to dig my hard drive out again, stuff like that. We'll need a PO in advance for 50 quid, just so that everybody else that's put money into the pot isn't sort of being disadvantaged. If you can't use my Airbridge, which is the one that the films will be coming on initially, or WeTransfer, let me know what you do use. Some people can use Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, whatever. Loads of people have come back to me when I've sent the image files out this week, saying, "Oh, can you use this?" And I think pretty much everybody, we've found a way to do it all that the council allows. For those that haven't yet, you'll need to let us know, because like I say, if it comes to it and we have to do an alternative method again, we'll have to insist on a PO for 50 quid beforehand. And I think that's it from me, Rachel. So yeah, I'll hand back over to you. You're still muted,
Rachel,
Rachel.
you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to say I've just got to stop sharing for a moment because me Teams is throwing a wobble and not letting me see anybody while I was sharing. So that's why I couldn't mute myself as well. So there we go. Thank you. So let me just get this back up in the proper manner. There we go. Thanks for that, John. Yeah, we're just trying to be as slick as possible this year. So if you have got any issues, yeah, as John said, with actually getting access to the film, do you need to problem solve at your end as well. So if you come to John and sort of say, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that, the next question John will ask you is, well, how can you? So there will be a way. I cannot believe that there are councils that cannot do file transfer in some way, shape, or form. It's impossible because they will need to be sharing files in this way. So it's just finding the right person who can answer that for you so that we can get it to you, because otherwise it's going to be a DVD on a carrier pigeon. Potentially, we're not doing DVDs on carrier pigeons, okay? So, and I'm always conscious when I'm talking about things like what I'm about to talk about now, that I might well be teaching you to suck eggs entirely here. You might be absolutely on it. You might be, doing this all day, every day, and you don't need me to give you a nudge on it. And if so, that's great. Take a sip of tea and, look out at the beautiful sunshine that you've probably hopefully got today as well. But I think it's always worth, particularly actually if you've been doing it for a while actually though as well, because I know myself when I was doing things for some time, sometimes some things you can almost forget and overlook because you did it once. Yeah, that's fine. So just taking it back to the basics and just checking what you've got at the moment, what that journey looks like, because this product is only part, of course, of that wider recruitment ecosystem. So you're going to have this beautiful product, and it is an amazing film. I did cry. I do think that should be a key performance indicator potentially for films, whether I cry immediately or not. So it's just a part of that. So if you've got this plonked in, into a website, into your assets, into other things that aren't working as well, it's not going to have that traction that you'd really like it to have. We all want the film to have the most positive impact that it can possibly have, and you'll know if you've been coming to these information sessions prior that we get a lot of pressure from people to say, well, what difference does it make? We're going to invest in this, how do we know it's going to work? work. And we can't answer that for the 100 councils that we're managing, because it's not just up to the film, is it? It's what else is happening. So I think that this is a really good time to have a sort of critical friend view and an audit and a look at what you've got running, and are there any improvements or any potential planning that you can do on the basis that you're going to be dropping this film into. You don't need to have the film to do this. And we were talking about this the other day and sort of saying sometimes I know that we all sort of wait to have it in our hand before we do anything, and then it's this mad rush to get everything done. Whereas actually, there's quite a lot of things that you can just be doing ready to just drop it in. So just having a think first of all, so I can send this to you and obviously just adapt it to, what it is you've got running on there. Having a look, so this is what I mean by audit. I know there's lots of different terms of what an audit or a digital audit means or what have you, but for this very base level, we're just going to have a look and just think. I'm just going to invite you to have a look and have a think about what you've got running and how your whole recruitment system works. And this is trying to look at it from the potential of your customer, potential foster carer. Now, it's quite hard to do this yourself, particularly if you are the author of every Facebook post you've ever done, of all of your website, of every billboard you're doing, etc., etc. It's quite hard to do that. And also, we've got such a good knowledge around what fostering is that we don't see what we don't know with it. I mean, the classic one that when I started working with the digital marketing agency years ago was they said, "Why do you call it fostering fees?" I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, well, to me, a fee, this is a chap who was nothing to do with fostering. To me, a fee is something that I pay, a license fee, a fee for using something. Like, so I'm not sure that people understand what a fee means. So sometimes it's just trying to find somebody who can be a critical friend to you and look through. That could be someone in the organisation, it could be someone personally, to have a look through, be really honest about how these things read to them. Do they understand what is being said, and does it give them the positive sides, of course, of fostering too? So that's one of the things to be looking at as well. Then also just thinking about the journey. I know that last year there was one of the local authorities, not going to name names, what have you, was saying we haven't had any inquiries from it, and actually their inquiry form wasn't working. It wasn't working. I know because I tried, and it wasn't working. So you're not going to have any inquiries if your inquiry form isn't working. Your Facebook form, I've seen it recently as well when I've been looking about online, that the form's got some typos in it. It's actually got the wrong amount of money in there, like it's missing a K on how much people may be paid in a year. It's to do with a different scheme. All these sorts of things. Just actually trial it out and see what it actually looks like. Is the auto response up to date? Are your information events on your website up to date? How is it looking? What's it like to navigate around your site? Is it easy for people to inquire? And then also what happens then following that journey through? What then happens at inquiry handling stage? So if you're about to load up a lot of marketing based around this film, are your inquiry handling team ready to manage that? Have you got some, information events lined up ready in the hope that you will have people through? What about your initial visits as well and the management over that? So if it isn't done all the way through your journey, if it isn't all in line, the stars are not aligned with it, then you're not going to get as much out of this as you would do if you've got all of that in hand. Have the people, for instance, as well, who might be taking, phoning people back from online inquiries, etc. Do they know about the film? Do they know about the content of it? Are they involved in it as well? Do you need to update them? Thinking about your comms teams, etc. as well. And just with your Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media that you're using as well, what accounts are you using? What other accounts might you be able to use in and around your local authority or your members, etc.? What can you do around that too? So just thinking about what improvements you could make and what you critically need to do. So that's why I put a little bit there about the priority and sort of timescales, and putting that person who is responsible for that. I'm imagining it's probably got your own name, probably next to a lot of them, if I've been around this area for long enough. But just making sure that you've really got everything that you can do in line. Because I know I say this every time, but the film itself is a very high value asset. It's cost a lot of money, blood, sweat, and tears to produce it. It's a premium piece of creative content that you would not be able to afford, probably, to have as a singular local authority trust. That's the joy of this collaboration and this project, is that we're able to create something worth tens of thousands of pounds for a very much smaller, it was smaller than that, part of the pie for yourself. So let's treat it as that. Let's give it that respect. Because I'm pretty sure if you were going to go off and spend that amount of money, if somehow somebody, had allowed you to spend that, you would have a very robust plan around it. So treat it as though it is, because that is what it's worth. So doing all that you can to get it in front of your target audience and converting them into your pipeline. So getting your call to action correct is key. You can't assume people are just going to watch it, they're going to find their way to it. Because don't hide it away. Make sure that you've got it front and foremost in what you're doing, and also that it follows through. So if somebody's looking at your social media, for instance, and then you're pulling them through, if you are pulling them onto your website and not directly via a form or what have you, does your website match? Does it look like they've arrived in the right place from it as well? And also, and John and I were talking about this quite in depth the other day around this, that it's not actually all about the inquiries as well, is it? So approvals is obviously what we're all after. We'd love to be sat here this time next year, wouldn't we? As a result of the film, we were directly recruited and approved 10 foster carers. We'd love to be able to all say that. But as we all know, it's far more complex and multifaceted than that. Somebody's journey from first thinking about fostering, becoming aware of fostering, go through the whole process about thinking about whether it's for them, is it us they need, all of those sorts of things that you do in day out, day in, day out. So it might be that you want to think about what other performance indicators, what other ways of measuring how effective the film has been. And being quite honest, I'm going to come back to this later about why we do things and how we can measure that as well. Okay, John, have I forgotten anything that we said that we were going to talk about then before I go over to say what we're going to do in breakout rooms at all? Or did you want to add anything in?
No, I think you've covered everything now.
Okay, fabulous. So over to you then today. We're really aware that we have these sessions, and quite often it's John and I doing a lot of updating because of we're on mass now and it's the easiest way to do it. But with my other hat, for those of you who don't know, I'm also an NCT antenatal teacher. There's a phrase we always use NCT, that the knowledge is in the room. So I'm very aware. So I say that there's decades of experience sat in this virtual room at the moment. So we thought it'd be really good idea to give you the opportunity to share that with each other. Now, because there are so many of us, John says nearly 100 people online at the moment. John is going to be putting us into breakout rooms in a moment. First and foremost, though, when you get into a breakout room, can you almost immediately decide who will feed back to the group? So we're aware that some people might be very confident and happy to do that, and other people might not wish to do that. So we really need that to be agreed. So you're not running out breakout room time and nobody's agreed it, because it will fall flat if we do that. So if you can do that, first of all, that's fab. And then the three questions that I've got on screen then is that I'd like you all to have the opportunity to think about one way that you're planning to use the film. Why? So a quick bit about your decision making around that, and how you plan to measure the success of that. And that's what I'm going to be asking each group to feed back when we come back in. We're going to have strictly 2 minutes from each group as a maximum so that we can hear from each group. We can also put extras in the chat, of course, as well. But thank you for that. So I'll start with the one that's come up first. So Lisa, hello. You're going to have 2 minutes. I will stop you after 2 minutes if you go over. But say an idea that you came out with in your breakout room. What's led to that sort of decision and how you're planning to measure that activity, if that's all right, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah. So the general consensus, the ideas were chosen mainly because they felt these would be the best population of active applications, which means is most sensible, is what we all want, isn't it? So I'm going to quickly run through generally what we talked about. There were large screens in shopping centres that would play 30-second films. It was a free option and they could last up to 3 months. There would be the local authority Facebook page, Instagram and X. There would be a press release by the directorate councillor, residential newsletter that goes out on a quarterly basis, as well as fostering newsletters. We talked about in-house screens within the local authority that people could see that would hopefully generate in local authority applications to become foster friendly services. We also talked about adverts in our local cinemas, possibly screens up in our libraries. We talked about GP surgeries also on their screens that sit in their service. And we also mentioned about local hospitals, restaurants having stands. Lots of people have community stands where they communicate with the community, and hopefully they could show those videos there as well, even if it's only on a laptop. Just trying to think that was mainly the areas that we looked at. Somebody talked about having a launch, but that was voted against because they didn't feel that would have applications from that. And measuring the success was through recording those inquiries, unique tracking codes, applications that went through to approval, and through social media clicks and landing page clicks.
Fabulous. Thanks, Lisa. So loads of ideas there of different ways that you can actually get that film out there in different settings, a lot of outdoor, what we call, out of home advertising there as well, which we'll come back to shortly with it as well. So fabulous, loads of ideas there. Thank you. So what we'll think about as well as we move forward is about the measuring as well. So obviously wasn't quite enough time there to go through that as well, but I'm sure we're all thinking about ideas from there too. So that's great. Thanks, Lisa. Really appreciate you going first there as well. Very brave. Thank you. Jenny Evans, are you happy to go next?
And we talked about some of the same things as Lisa did. First and foremost, I guess, is social media, and we talked about using it on our own internal kind of fostering channels in terms of Facebook, Twitter, etc., but also on the council's wider channels, and how that would look. We were talking about sort of, because Twitter, or now X, isn't it, is dying a bit of a death, and we talked about LinkedIn and using that really as a group of people, and Helen in our group wrote down everyone's names to try and link up with each other as well, just to increase our reach and say, look, we're all working together on this project. And I think the advantage of LinkedIn is it links to some of the senior leadership, doesn't it, and some of the councillors, and gets your message sort of out that way. So I'm not sure in terms of reaching wider members of the public of LinkedIn, but I think it would be an interesting thing to explore. That's quite a new thing, certainly for me and our team to have a look at how we use. And then we hit sort of a couple of people in the group said that they've got local cinemas that are on board, and Helen again used the local cinema in Bradford to launch Any of Us, and she'll do the same with this film, and inviting their foster carers, and they can bring people along to see it. So I thought that was a really nice idea. In terms of sort of how we're using it, certainly sort of I've been liaising with comms, and we're going to put a bit of a plan together, and we've sort of got control over that. But senior leadership are quite interested in terms of seeing how we can make the best use of it, really. And I feel like in this climate we've got to increasingly justify anything we're spending. So I think some of those ideas that you just mentioned, Lisa, I've scribbled down as well, putting it in newsletters and press releases. I think we'll certainly add on to that. And in terms of how we measure it, I really struggle with this, because I think a lot of the things that we do, plant a seed, don't they, which grows over time and is hard to sometimes capture. And we talked about, all of us sort of tend to measure the impact of things when people ring up and inquire, by putting that into categories of, asking people, well, what brought you to ring today, and seeing if they mention it. But one lady in the group suggested that we could add it to, and most of our inquiries come through the website, we could add it to the kind of the drop down menu that's on the website that says, was it a family or friend mentioned it? Was it an internet search? Was it something you saw on TV? We could actually add in, did you see our film, couldn't we? And that would be quite a good way of maybe perhaps capturing that, although we sort of discuss it is hard, because a lot of people just say, oh, I've thought about it for years, don't they, and are quite vague.
Absolutely. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, it's so true, Jenny. And the thing is that what we do know about people's recall, of course, as well, is I'll just tell you the last thing, of course, that they've seen as well, rather than everything and along their journey with it. So it is just thinking about some other metrics that might be there instead of just asking that on that inquiry. But we'll come to that. Fabulous. Thanks, Jenny. And we are, of course, as we go through, going to have all of what they said, and so it's just trying to sort of think about anything else or ideas that we've got. So Joy, thanks for that, Jenny. And Joy, over to you then. What did your group talk about, or did you manage to crack the measuring nut at all?
So I'll just mention the things that maybe haven't been mentioned as much. I think we all got really excited. We could sort of sense the excitement of those local authorities and areas that are doing a tangible event. So Rotherham has a cinema that's just opening, and it's a really new, exciting thing for the town. So they're kind of piggybacking off that, and they're going to launch the film at this cinema, inviting councillors, having a Prosecco reception, heads of council invited, press, radio. And in with previous film, and they'll probably do it with this one as well, they're going to put the film in the reception at A&E on TV screens. And then the other local authority that is doing a tangible event was Southampton, and they're actually using a university building, and I think that's a really good way of recruiting and planting the seed with our kind of younger cohort. But then if they tell their parents about it, who are now empty nesters, you capture both cohorts there. In terms of measuring, because I know I've only got 42 seconds left, we obviously things like spikes in website visits, looking at social media metrics and reach, obviously inquiries, but capturing it when we do home visits on a spreadsheet or a tracker. But as you were saying, asking not just the last place you landed, but the whole journey, and trying to capture, so kind of re-educating us, the people that are going out to do the home visits, to capture all of those different points along the journey, so that we can better understand and better use our money in the areas that are working, and those that aren't working, we won't.
Lovely. Thank you, Joy. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, and thinking about those other metrics as well. And if you are getting your plans together to think, we're going to do this, and how we're going to measure it is this, and it might not be necessarily all the time that inquiry. It might be that, to use quite an old school one now, but followers on your social media, or like you said about the website, etc., which John will mention too. So yeah, loads of great ideas. Thanks for that, Joy. Yeah, really helpful there. Helen, over to you. What did you anything to add from your group there at all?
Yeah, I mean, largely everything has been covered. We did have mention of creating a particular landing page, because if you have your own separate website, or even on a main county website, maybe to have a landing page where you can embed the film, and with different call to actions, so people can book a call off the back of watching it, or they can book to attend an information session, or they can go through and do the online inquiry form. Having watched the film, it might generate that sort of interest. People are also using it to show at foster carers events, which they're having on the actual day of the film being launched, which is really nice. There's also use of it in consultation, and what else we had? Oh, again, the local cinemas, leisure centres, etc., going to approach to see if they'd be able to use even the 30-second clips that we get with the film. And somebody's also suggesting adding to a link to the film in email signatures, and obviously using the teasers on socials in the lead up to the launch to generate a lot of interest and have a bit of a big boom. Then also in terms of measuring success, similarly to what people have already said, so looking at the reach, impressions, how many people have booked on information sessions during that period of, the promotion of it, how many people have inquired, has there been a spike in inquiries, website visits, again, which I think people have mentioned, so using Google Analytics to see if there's been any tracked activity, so using GTM to track the traffic from specific landing pages, or unique, somebody's mentioned the unique things, I can't remember what they're called, but what I'm talking about, with all the tags and stuff that you can track all the activity. And what else? Oh, one of them from Buckinghamshire, they're linking it to other multiple campaigns, so they're linking in the film with Carers Week at the end of October, and 2 or 3 other campaigns that they have running, that it all kind of can merge and sort of support some of the activity going on there as well, so sort of boost other things that sort of interlink. Newsletters as well, I think that's probably been mentioned, but keeping it out there and sharing widely as possible, whether it's for foster carers, prospective foster carers, or the keep newsletters for inquirers and stuff like that. I think, yeah, that's probably it. Everything else has been said.
Lovely. That's great, Helen. Really got it all in there as well. Thank you for that. Yeah. So lots of different places there again as well, and starting to think, about how we're going to sort of capture all of this. Great stuff. Thank you. Jackie, over to you next. Anything to add to what's already been said there at all?
A few extra points. So somebody's talking about the Lord Mayor, not just the councillors, inviting them along. Also, Swindon, I think it was, that they were inviting community faith leaders along, which is a very interesting idea, and an introduction to local faith groups, etc. We talked about paid campaigns, Google adverts, YouTube adverts, etc. There was a discussion towards the end, actually, about really promoting the fact that it's 100 local authorities joining together. That's quite important. The emphasis on statistics, have your statistics ready for that as well. I think it was Brighton and Hove talked about having events at the Amex Stadium, having food, celebration, singing and dancing, celebrating the foster carers. I think you said it was 2,000 years of experience of fostering, which is quite something. So making a big thing about existing foster carers as well. Case studies. We didn't talk about case studies, etc. Apologies, I haven't mentioned everybody came up with any idea, but just the notes that I'm reading. Lots of great ideas. I think councillors have come up quite a lot to get people to share. I know that we had a viewing of our film at one of the regular council meetings and pointed everybody in the direction of our Facebook page so they could like or share it. That is quite important to do that. Staff, I think staff are very important. Generally, that always works well. Recommend a friend. Foster carers are key. People talked about that, getting the foster carers to go on, because obviously they know the right sort of people that would recommend fostering on their behalf. And again, all the same reasons we're doing it. I think it's also longer term. It's not just about the impact of the initial marketing campaign. We still have the film from 2 years ago on our website page. We still use it for information, event invites, etc., skills to foster. So it's not just about the next month. It's keeping it going and revisiting it every now and again. And I think I've covered just about most of it.
Lovely. Spot on your 2 minutes there as well, Jackie. Thank you for that. Fabulous. Yeah, using the staff, using the resources you've got, your staff, your councillors, your foster carers, all of those people who can help to spread the word on it as well. Fabulous. Thank you, Jackie. That was brilliant. Gemma, over to you in your group then. It's getting harder now, isn't it?
I'll try not to repeat what's already been said. But our group very much discussed working with smaller budgets as well as, you know, larger budgets, and just making sure everything is set up internally as much as it possibly can be. So I know some people work within comms teams, other people's are kind of out on their own picking this up, and it isn't really their day job. So engage comms where you can, be prepared to make sure you can get as much news as you can into staff newsletters, residents newsletters, and also engage with the internal stakeholders like your lead member early so that they're prepared, because their diaries do get booked up. Make sure you've got your PR quotes for the press release ready to go, so that when that press release comes through and you want to engage your press team within your local authority, that you've already got the representative there. And hopefully, if you can organise a photo opportunity as well, your press team should be able to, you know, help you with that as well. We did discuss a lot of what has already been said, you know, social ads, making sure your website's up to scratch. All of us were very keen about having a specific landing page. Obviously, as we all know, it's a challenge to actually capture the success of, you know, marketing specifically for fostering. People will just say, as you said, Rachel, you know, oh, I've just been thinking about it for a while, and they don't remember what they've seen. But actually, you know, I don't know what it's like in other councils, but I've got a really good relationship with our inquiries team. They know exactly what's going on. They're prepared for hopefully an influx of inquiries. And actually, since I've started, they've tailored some of the questions around how did you find out about us to be a bit more, I guess, data gathering, so that we can actually measure what we're doing. One of our team members mentioned using the stills for, you know, more traditional methods like magazine, newspaper ads, not forgetting that actually they're still very valid forms of marketing that really do work. And if you can do multi-channel campaigns around this, we should. But also she mentioned using the stills for Instagram stories, which I think Coventry had done in the past. They're very impactful photos, and if the film is doing the rounds at the same time, it all ties in together, and it just, you know, it works a lot better.
Absolutely. Lovely. Thank you.
I think that's
Gemma.
everything.
Lovely. Yeah, no, loads of stuff there again. Yeah, really good point about the stills as well, and really good quality images. Yeah, they look really real. They're not the Californian smiles of a lot of the stock images that we have. So that's a really brilliant resource to start using from now. Yeah, great. Thanks, Gemma. That's fab. George, over to you.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what others have said. So I think our group discussed some of those points the other group discussed, and also listening to the other group, it is very informative, because some of them we had not discussed. So that is something that we can explore in terms of measuring the success. What we felt that, you know, even if we get one foster carer approved, you know, through this campaign, still we consider that as successful. Yeah, so we are looking forward to it, you know, and obviously we use social media, most of them social media, existing foster carers, existing staff, and appeal to them to share the film in their social media cycle. So mostly it is focusing on social media, and some of us obviously we are thinking of having some formal launch as well.
Lovely, brilliant. Yeah, and because the launch was mentioned before as well, and that's really important to think about. Yeah, not just the launch itself, it's about that PR. And as Gemma or Jackie or Helen, somebody mentioned about the 100+ local authorities. It's that's part of the story as well, isn't it, around it? So thanks for that, George. Fabulous. So I think, is it just Nikki from your group? I think you're last person with your hand up there, I think. Quick update from yours.
I've been trying to delete all the things that everybody else has already covered. I think one thing that was about tying it back into fostering moments. So I guess that then and now, that Wigan had really good success at Foster Care Fortnight with fostering moments, and to use that kind of then and now theme of keeping in touch with young people as part of that. Then YouTube advertising, I think that's already been covered. Sharing the film at Skills to Foster has proved beneficial in the past. So getting people who are close to being approved thinking about it.
making links with organisations that have a membership audience, so like country parks, and inviting them to share that, or if they've got digital screens in any kind of cafes or areas, to play it on their digital screens. I mean, one thing that we're doing at our launch event, we've been capturing some then and now photos that we'll have on big boards at our launch event, and then we'll roll out through local press and social media over the kind of coming months. But then also, and actually I think Charlotte and some of my subcluster are here from our hub, is we've got a launch event for our subcluster regional hub at the end of the month, and actually whether we could play it there and inspire more foster carers to come forwards with their stories of keeping in touch, that we could then roll that, you know, between us, we could share those and roll that across our social media for months to come.
Lovely. Yeah, I think anything you can do to link it in with, you know, real people in your area is going to be really beneficial, isn't it? And like you've done before, Nikki, with your theming and, you know, just picking up on those themes, you've got a lot of traction there. Fab. Right. What I'm going to do is I've just got a few slides that I just want to run through. I am aware of time here, but I think it was really important for us to have that opportunity to chat between ourselves today. We did know that we were running a bit of a gambit on timing and teams and all of that. So let me just go through with the last couple of bits that I've got, which will hopefully link in with what you've been talking about there as well, and we can send these over to you as well if you wanted to sort of have a look afterwards. And obviously some people have left, you've had to leave a little bit earlier as well, but this is just my little bit of a food for thought for you really as well. And it's interesting when one of you were talking about the X versus LinkedIn versus senior managers seeing things. There's multiple reasons why we undertake activity. Yeah, well, I used to use Twitter. I never want to use Twitter to try and get an inquiry. It's because that's when my counsellors and senior managers would say, oh, I've seen fostering everywhere. It's everywhere. I was like, yeah, you've been on Twitter, haven't you? You know, so actually that's why I did it for it. So it's being honest as well about why we are doing some things too, and being realistic about what you're going to hope to achieve and how to measure it. Signing up to news about fostering, you know, or updates or what have you. There's lots of other ways that people might be earlier in their journey that you're just having that interaction. I think the LinkedIn thing was really interesting because, yeah, I think X, well, I won't say anything if we've been recorded and etc., but it's dying a death. I think it's fair to say, isn't it? And you might be starting to get some of your members not wanting to use it for different reasons too as well, potentially. So it could be your awareness raising, it could be content for your website. You've mentioned all of these things, yeah, but it's just thinking about how you're going to measure success. So if you're going to do something, how will you know whether it works or not? Because you know, sometimes we hear a bit of, oh, it went really well, or that was really great, but we haven't actually quantified it. Sometimes just meant we liked it with it. So it's just thinking about, you know, what it is we do and why and how we measure it. Now, this is a real sort of painting by numbers tool here. There's a lot more technical ones I'm sure you can get online. But if you are thinking, what do I do? How do I use it? Going up the top here, we've got the resources required for something from low to high. That could be monetary, budgetary resources. It could also be human resources. Those of you who've known me for a while will know that I have a little bit of that when we say sometimes something is free, if it's actually going to be 6 social workers needed over 5 days, that isn't free anymore. But if you've got hundreds of social workers dotting about, kicking back, not doing much, I don't believe you. But if you have and you can make use of them, fine. You might be happier to do something that is very targeted, but takes a lot of resource. So thinking about how targeted and measurable something is, because if it isn't, so going across the bottom here, if something's not targeted at all and it's very high in resource, I think you've really got to question why you're doing something. As I say, if you've got loads of resources sloshing about, okay, but I would still say moving towards this central axis is going to be far better use of that public purse for you as well. So just thinking about who you want to target, obviously, first of all, and that could be multiple. You might segment your audience out there. but thinking about how targeted is it? I mean, the thing about the sort of cinemas and the large screens and the shopping centres, etc., it's sort of how targeted is it? But if it's actually very low cost because they're giving you all the screens in the city centre for free, then okay, it's not targeted. I remember once that I was trying to be sold digital billboards, but the footfalls X, Y, or Z, but it was outside a uni, and it was just going to be the uni students walking past, and the parents of those uni students were likely to live elsewhere because they were coming to uni there at that time, with the demographics being what it was then. Slightly changed for unis at the moment, I know, but you've got to think. So if it's very untargeted, but it's not costing anything, okay. So it's just trying to think each time, why am I doing this? Where does it sit on this sort of axis? So that was my last sort of comments around that. I'm going to hand back over to John, who's just going to whiz through the last bits around what some of you have mentioned already about getting it onto your websites and the iframe on your website and the use of YouTube. So over to you, John, for the last few minutes there.
Thanks for that. Thanks everybody for all the suggestions as well. Loads of really good ideas there. Yeah, getting the basics right. When you get the films, make sure you load all the versions up to YouTube. So the full version, the 30-second edit, the 15-second clips, and then make sure you embed it somewhere where you can send traffic to, online traffic, because whatever you do, whether it's online or if it is outdoor stuff or whatever, you need somewhere for people to go to watch the full film, explain a bit about the film, the need for carers, and then have a contact form as well. So that's really, really important. Next slide, please, Rachel. Yeah, don't put the full film on, say, social media platform. Nobody's going to watch. It's like nearly 4 minutes long. People will look and go, oh, 4 minutes, I'm not watching that. 30 seconds or 15-second edits, perfect. Just generate a bit of interest, a bit of intrigue. Make sure there's a link on there that takes you through to that page that's got the full film on, got the landing, the contact form, and then you'll be able to capture that inquiry then. And even if it is somebody who's at the start of their journey, you can nurture that journey along. Make sure everybody who you can sort of lean on to say, please, can you share this, tag it, whatever, between councils, different areas of the country, whatever, get that amplification. Reach is guaranteed if you spend on boosting them, but the outcomes are different from that. You can pay thousands and thousands of pounds to get it under people's noses, but if you don't then get them to click through to somewhere where you get the outcome, i.e. an inquiry, it's a waste of money. Next slide, please, Rachel. So here's an example of one YouTube campaign that we managed. Kind of typical, really. It was for a large council, but in terms of the amount spent over the time period, so it was £1,000 spent over a month. YouTube lets you target audiences really, really well, which is one of the reasons why we use it. So you can, all that wastage you get from outdoor stuff and cinema or whatever, radio, whatever else, you can target right people in this age range and these demographics with these characteristics, people who are much more likely to want to foster. So over the month, over 100,000 unique users saw the ad 170,000 times. It led to 95 clicks. In terms of generating clicks, YouTube's not the best. Facebook is probably the best, but then the quality of inquiry isn't great. But then you look at how long the videos were played for. Nearly 30,000 people saw the video all the way through, the 30 seconds all the way through, which for £1,000, I don't think you could get that sort of value doing anything else at the moment. Other stuff might emerge, like TikTok, as that audience matures, might become better or whatever. But for now, we really, really, really recommend that you put it on YouTube and put some spend behind it. And you can measure it as well. Like I say, you can say exactly how many views you've had of what time period, how many clicks throughs you've had, that sort of thing. And I would imagine at least one of those 95 clicks turned into an inquiry, probably more. And then, like I say, it's then up to the team to bring them through and bring them through to approval. Next slide, if there is one. Yeah, I think we've covered this in the discussions about getting council senior management to share it, all your internal stuff, your free stuff, your PR, everything like that. Next screen, please, Rachel. Yeah, make sure your websites can hold the video and your contact form works and everything like that. Give us a shout if you're struggling with this, because we're able to create specific landing pages for you to get around that problem. It, like I say, it includes the film framing and iframe and so on. Yeah, make sure your search ads are on. We noticed in the campaigns we managed last year, when we looked like across the month, there was a massive spike around on a lot of campaigns for Google search traffic around the time of the launch. So it was creating interest locally. People were searching for it. Make sure you've got, one, Google ads are switched on. Two, you've got an ad group that mentions all of the terms and everything around the film. Set up an ad group specifically for it. Again, if you're not familiar in this area, give us a shout and we can help you with that. I think that's it. Yeah, the launch. Yeah, there's a couple of people that have dropped out. So if you have already committed to coming to the launch event and you want extra tickets, please get in touch with Rachel.
Drop us a line. Drop us a line. I've really appreciated those of you who haven't sadly been able to come now, who were hoping to. The fact that you've let me know so early means that we've got some capacity there for people who might want to bring somebody else, foster care, etc., with them too. But if you haven't booked tickets and you did want to come, you do need to contact me ASAP, because they, are allocated on that as well. There's a lot of stuff I think that people probably want to also share still today, and say very conscious of time. It was always a little bit of a balancing act today. So what I would say is the chat will stay open, I believe, so that if you've been part of this meeting, you will be able to see what's in the chat. So if you want to share in the chat, that's great. But if you're also in the Facebook group, which is LA/trust foster carer recruiters, I am the admin of that group. So if you find it, you do need to answer the questions that we'll ask you, because we're trying to keep it a safe space only for people working in local authorities and trusts in this area. But I will start a thread on there in a moment, and please do just share any ideas that you've got, anything else that you wanted to share. If you had something in your group which you don't feel is being captured, let's try and get that going, because as I think George said, just hearing from other people and the ideas that you've got, that's where really, the joy of this collaboration is as well. So don't be shy with asking questions on there, or sharing what has or hasn't worked. I think it's really helpful to share what hasn't worked, as well. That's why I do mention a couple of bloopers earlier. I'm not having a pop at any authority, but I think it's just actually, if you know how easy it can be to go a little bit wrong and what the impact of that can be, that's really, really interesting sharing. There's a lot of worth in that for all of us there. Okay, so I think we'll close us off for today then. Thanks everybody for coming. Sorry we've gone a few minutes over, but I'm really hoping that you found that worthwhile to have that sharing. Love that about LinkedIn as well. I think that's a really, really great idea there, to think about how we can use that platform potentially in place of some of the activity that is or isn't happening. And look forward to seeing those of you who will be at the launch. I'm avoiding anybody who might have a cough or cold that could lead to COVID this year. And if you need us, you know where we are. All right. So thanks all from me, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Exciting times ahead.